Welcome to Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered, a podcast that illuminates real solutions to common problems within the parking industry. I'm your host, Brian Wolf, CEO of Parker Technology, and in each episode, I'll introduce you to real parking pros that will bring their own tips, tricks, and best practices to manage what we all know is harder than it looks, parking a car.
On the show today is Dr. Tanara Teal-Tate. She's the Executive Director of Parking and Transportation at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where she manages a $24+ million auxiliary enterprise serving over 50,000 campus community members. She oversees 18,000+ parking spaces across 200+ locations, including 10 parking garages. She also operates a 34 bus transit systems and leads a team of 60+ staff members across parking, transit, enforcement, customer service, and special events operations. With 25 years of experience in parking and transportation operations, Dr. Teal-Tate holds 3 degrees, a BS in mechanical engineering, an MPA, and an Ed.D. in instruction, curriculum, and leadership. She's a strategic leader who emphasizes data-driven decision-making and positions parking and transportation as essential infrastructure supporting the university's mission. Tanara, or should I say Dr. T, welcome to Harder Than It Looks.
Thank you, Heidi.
Today, we're going to talk about leading large, complex operations in higher education, building cross-campus partnerships, and what it really takes to position parking and transportation as mission-critical infrastructure. Right. You are one impressive lady. I knew you were, but now I really do after reading all that. So for all of our normal listeners, you will notice I am not Brian. I am a stand-in for Brian this week. And what he always likes to do is what we like to say, metaphorically, hand the mic to you, Tanara, and you can take us back as far as you'd like from what first drew you into parking and transportation and then what's kept you here for 25 years.
All right. So where do I start? I really have a lot of people to thank for how I actually got here. But I will say I've always been inclined to work at a university setting, probably because as a student, those were some of my first real jobs. So I will say this. At the moment, prior to parking, I was working in athletics. Because I worked for athletic directors in spring sports, some of those, like the soccer coach was my main employer. They could not work with my school schedule. And so being an engineering student, I spent a lot of hours all day. Labs would probably be 3 hours long. And so at the moment when they originally hired me, my schedule was pretty tight. So they needed someone to relieve the secretary for lunch. So I was like, well, I don't get out in class in time. And so at that particular moment, I went across the hall and I spoke to the lady basketball coach. And of course, at that moment, they had already hired someone. And so I was pretty disappointed because I realized that they had already posted my job on the student board before I had proper time to find another job. I know, right? So I'll never forget my line sister said that, hey, we have some openings in parking. And so she was like, okay, you may want to, throw your head in and figure out, if that's something you want to do. I was like, I just need a job. I don't care where it is. I didn't mind working, right? So had a single parent at the time and being raised by my grandmother as well. I needed to work. So I'll never forget, I was working one of the basketball games and her then supervisor saw me and told me to come and see him. And so I went into the parking department and of course he was part of National Guard. So I wasn't going to actually see him until after he came back. But that's kind of how it all started. And so my first actual job was working in the booth. And I also did some license plate lookups. So I started at the very bottom of the total pole.
Wow, you were oh my goodness. You probably saw some weird stuff.
At the time, we were still taking payment. I think it was a flat $5 back in the day. Haven't seen that amount for a daily parking permit in a while. So
Sure, yeah.
it was a great experience. I was a little disappointed because, like I said, having my job already being, I just felt like the department should have given me proper time to be able to find something. So I probably quit that same day.
I love hearing the stories of people who've you started down at the bottom and worked your way all the way up to the top. It's so impressive.
Yeah,
So
and I will say, interestingly enough, so I guess it was still kind of hard on my schedule because, like I said, it was pretty intense schedule. I mean, I was in my senior year. So I decided there was a position that was coming up, a full-time position. So my first full-time position would have been an office assistant. And so I had finished my internship and I decided to apply for that job because I'm thinking, hey, I'm still in school. I have an opportunity to have my schooling paid for. And so that's my first real-time position in parking as an office assistant, full-time.
awesome. Good stuff. Well, tell me about your degrees because you have multiple, right? And mechanical engineering how does that relate to, I mean, that's a power combo. Mechanical engineering, public administration, and then education leadership. Would love to hear how you're incorporating all of those in what you do today in your roles.
I will say from an engineering background, I decided to have that as a career path because my mother felt like my wants from a medical standpoint, she told me I would be in school for forever. And so she was like, you have a love of math and science. So that's how I ended up on the engineering track. And needless to say, I love school. So it wasn't something that I could just stop. So even though she said it would take forever, it still took forever to get those 3 degrees. I mean, just to be honest. Um, but I have a true appreciation because I feel like from a curriculum standpoint, engineering kind of gave me that drive, like that grit and that tenacity to be able to push forward. It's like no problem is beneath me. I'm here to tackle this problem. So I feel like from a parking operation, you always have a lot of problems that you have to resolve from a customer standpoint. So I think just having that analytical piece, as well as the technology piece and being asked to make decisions, whether it's, creating a performer for a garage build or just having insight to be able to look at diagrams and understand, if you make this change, how it impacts others. That has been a critical plus. Like I'll tell anyone, if they could create a degree for us as parking professionals, I don't know exactly what it would need to be, but I will say it is an added plus if you can find someone that has that sciences background and that math component as well to be able to look at things and know how to make incremental changes in order to be successful. With the public administration, at one point I thought I wanted to be business. And I will say, coming from the nonprofit sector, you still kind of get a sense of all the elements that you need from a decision making standpoint. But I would think from the governance piece, interacting with faculty senate, students, these are the groups that I interact with daily. And I feel like I'm in this seat because they've afforded me an opportunity to be that subject matter expert for campus. Is having that buy-in from them. And so I kind of learned how to navigate that, I feel, from the public admin standpoint. And then with the education background, I mean, lifelong learner, feel like from a student perspective, I get it because, again, I interacted with parking in multiple campus settings. I mean, no campus I can say had a one fits all package. Like everything I learned was so unique, so different, so custom, for that particular campus experience. And so I will say leaning on certain individuals and just having that rapport with faculty, especially my chair. I went through several chairs. I will admit I was in the doctoral program longer than I wanted to be. And I will say it was most challenging, but it also gave me what I needed in order to make decisions. From a doctoral standpoint, I had to make decisions, for my dissertation, my research study, understanding what students I wanted to participate, it just kind of helps with that from that standpoint. I feel like even though I may not have been equally prepared at this stage, I felt like the incremental things that I did to get here is kind of what led to that.
That's great. I love that, the pursuit of lifelong learning. That I mean, it makes sense that you've just stayed in university then, because it's like it's the world that you've just lived in for a while. That's great.
It just feels like I get it, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
like, at one point, I kinda thought, "Okay, what would it look like if I was to step over to corporate?" And then I was like, "You know what? My heart, my passion has always been student success." And so I
Mm,
was like, "How do I position myself for that type role?" And so I think that's gonna probably be the harder transition for me because I've been in parking operations for so long. I'm looking forward to a change, but at the same time, I feel like, you know what, this is kind of what shaped me as a person because I know everything that I've gone through, you know, has
mhm.
prepared me for this moment.
For sure. That's good. So, speaking of moments, was there a pivotal moment in your career when you realized that parking and transportation isn't just an operational function, but that it's foundational for how the university runs? Like when I talk about in the beginning, it's this mission critical infrastructure. Was there a
Mhm.
point when that clicked for you? Or, when did you realize that?
So I think for me, it seems like understanding, like, what it means to be micromodal, and see, like, all the master plans set up. You understand that you may lose a particular space, but you understand that space is utilized for a certain purpose. I think I've been fortunate enough to be allowed to be in those rooms, when those decisions are being made. I think it makes it a lot tougher when I don't have insider information into what's gonna potentially happen in the future, because being an auxiliary unit, you know, those impacts are felt because, you know, if I'm not able to meet bottom line, because of one one change and how it, you know, will impact the rest of the operation. I just think, working well with your facilities department as well as enrollment management and some of the student success areas, understanding exactly what their needs are and how best can you help to meet that need. Because I know at the end of the day, I'm necessary because I'm the first and last impression, you know, for all the
Or
students that we see here on campus. I feel like this Rocky Top experience has to be felt, you know, whether it's coming to a big game or whether it's coming to, you know, go to work in a research lab. I know all of that, you know, interacts with each other, and it's just finding that balance and how do you make it all come together and just
yeah.
to actually see one's vision. Like, I know all the things that are coming. Sometimes I'm stressed out about all those things because I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, wow, you know, that's a big change." And, you know, instantly I know, okay, I'm trying to operate at that 30,000 foot view. But sometimes we get in the weeds because I feel like from a team perspective, I can't let my team down. Right.
Mm,
So I know there's a lot of reliance on me to be able to make those decisions, but it's also empowering your team to be able to make those decisions in lieu of you. And I think that's kind of been part of the challenge. I'm fortunate enough because I'm pretty popular here to where everybody wants to hear from me. And I'm very thankful for that.
I'm so surprised by that, Tanera.
Hey, look, I'm all about empowering people to know what's going on.
Mhm.
And so I just ask for the same in return. And I've been fortunate enough to receive it.
That's so good. Well, you touched on two things that I wanted to ask about. The cross-functional collaboration that you spoke to with some of the different departments. How does that look in practice, and how do you keep those relationships strong outside of, like, meetings where you're all together? Do you meet with other, like, the Department of Athletics director or people in administration or academic affairs? Like, how does that work exactly?
Like all in one. So it just depends on what time of year. So right now, I've served on various committees and I
Mm,
have committees of my own. And so what you try to do is to invite those decision makers in the room, especially the ones that'll be most impacted as it pertains to your operations. And so first we kind of discuss what goals are we trying to accomplish. And then based on that, we're able to, okay, see, do I have the right people in the space to be able to decide what needs to happen? And then I think just receiving that overall buy-in, because I can tell campus leaders I'm unable to do that particular thing because I may not have the revenue for it.
Right.
But just getting something in writing to kind of show based on the data, this is how this impacts us, and just getting in front and kind of studying, okay, historically what has occurred and understanding how you got here, and then how can you sustain whatever level you need to be on in order to meet that goal. And I think that's part of the challenge because, we all have challenges from an operations standpoint. I mean, most campuses that I've been on, we've been landlocked. And so we have to be very creative in how we move our customers around. So with that, here at UT, it was just kind of trying to understand the culture and not coming so hard in and demanding that things change without understanding, okay, what happened? And based on the experience I have, how can we incrementally move the needle on where it needs to be so that your stakeholders can understand, okay, we understand why we have to make this change and we're going to support this because we know where it will lead us in the future. And just having the right people in the rooms to have those conversations. And so that's just step one, just making sure that you're talking to the right people.
Yep. Yeah, that's so important. Like helping people see the why, like why you should care, why this matters to you.
Mhm.
It's really good. Okay, you kind of answered one of my other questions. So, are there certain priorities that compete when it comes to different things like special events, daily operations, the longer term strategy? And how do
Yeah.
you align people around those shared goals?
So definitely a lot of events that compete. And given your inventories, you only have so many finite resources to be able to utilize. We're fortunate enough from any type of academic day, you have the windows of class times where that's kind of varied. I think the most difficult and most challenging part is just kind of understanding like who are you anticipating that's coming in? You may have a schedule that tells you, I anticipate this happening on this day with this number of attendees, but it's always the one-offs where you don't really know about it when you should, and how can you pivot around those type of situations. So I think for us, we always pre-plan for things, but there's always the nuance where something comes along and it changes those plans. So I think just having that adaptability and that flexibility to make those decisions on the fly. Right now, we have a operation set up where we have like a command post so we can kind of see at a glance from like a traffic congestion standpoint, they can see what's going on at any given time. Based on that, if they have to reroute the buses, they're able to make that decision. If they're having to have an officer in one location that may have to navigate vehicles another way, like that's something that they're able to jointly do. I would like to explore some additional technology surrounding that to try to see what we can do to try to, I guess, minimize as much human intervention. I know there's always going to be human intervention, but I feel like with the onset of AI and all these tools that exist out there that didn't, when I first started my career, I just think that positions us better to make better
Yeah.
decisions when it comes to navigating campus. But I think we do a pretty good job. We do have a lot of events on campus. So I think just having like consultants on your team, um,
Mhm.
look at and observe, how campus is interacting on certain days and times. Like we kind of give them windows of opportunity where we'll have this crowd size and then we'll give them other variations. And so based on that, just putting together those traffic control plans and just making sure that we're speaking to our stakeholders about any type of competing events so that they know, I may have to leave an hour early on this day because I know
Mhm.
this is happening. I think just being transparent about this is what you have, just making sure the end user is aware of it as well.
Yeah, that's really good. Communication is so key in so many areas.
So
Parking touches almost every trip we make, but most people only notice it when it doesn't work. As our communities grow and change, the systems behind the scenes have to evolve too. That's one of the reasons we support Parking Today. It's a space for honest conversations about where this industry is headed and what needs to improve. At IPS, we spend more than 25 years thinking about the role parking plays in mobility. Not just meters and payments, but how the entire experience impacts cities, campuses, operators, and the people moving through them every day. Technology should solve real problems. It should make operations simpler. It should create clarity, not friction. And it should adapt as communities do. If you're rethinking how parking fits into the future of mobility, you can learn more at ipsgroup.com.
So you are in a pretty high visibility role. Have you developed any specific leadership habits or routines that kind of help you stay steady in the position that you're in?
So it's funny that you say that because I've always been the behind the scenes person that likes to stay behind the scenes. And it has been, I guess, an interesting ride here because I've probably been more front and center than I would have liked. But it's just taken me out of my comfort zone. So I tell everyone I'm an introvert, even though they do not believe me, but I truly am. I can feel it when I go home at the end of the day because I feel drained. But I just feel like kind of position myself around those that have already done it. You know, I have great mentors as part of my team. I'm networked with a lot of different leaders in the industry. And, you know, we don't try to reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah.
We take each other's ideas and we improve upon those, I guess, to best meet whatever campus needs we have at hand. But I will say, um, I'm always constantly trying to learn. And so I'll say I take that from my Reader's Digest. I'll pick up the phone, I'll email. I'm not afraid to reach out. I'm not afraid to say I do not know something. And I think that's part of me being vulnerable in this position and just allowing myself to show that level of vulnerability, not to a point where it makes me incompetent at best. I just, I feel like in order for me to grow, I have to be, I have to basically let myself know that it's okay to not know, but make sure that if that comes again, because I've had plenty of times where I've been challenged from that regard. It may be similar, but unique, And so I just make sure that I'm prepared for whatever it is that comes next.
Well, that's to me, that's humility, right? Like that's what you want in your leaders is someone who's humble and can say, I don't know, but I'll help you figure it out. Like that chef's kiss. That's so good. It's like the mark of a great leader.
Yeah. And I really, truly hope that more leaders in my position are willing to support those that are looking to grow. Because I will say earlier in my career, I felt like that was sort of a challenge because I didn't know who to lean on. I've been fortunate enough to be in these circles to kind of know, okay, I have this scenario, I'll call this like I know that. But I don't just rely on those in a university setting. There have been times where I've called operators, municipalities, like we all have a set of unique challenges. Now, the policy piece may be different, but I think from a scoping and requirement standpoint, we all can align from that regard.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I've always really admired and loved about this industry is that it seems like, even in the university space or just as you said, even across with operators, municipal, like you're all so quick to reach out and, like the community is just so strong, and especially in the university space, I feel like y'all are just really tight knit, like a campus family, across the country, which is neat. I know there are a lot of organizations and associations that help with that.
So look, can I ask you a question? I know that's not part of the script.
Sure. Okay, go for
So,
it.
I mean, you're a heavy hitter too, Heidi. I mean, let's look at your bio, okay? I'm just saying, like, how do you think, like, who do you attribute to your success and how you got here in this role?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're flipping the script on me. A lot, obviously not on my own, right? I think Brian, to be honest, like, this is his podcast. I'm not just tooting his horn because this is his podcast and he's our CEO, but I really think that having Brian and Tammy and like others on our team, um, who saw the value that I could bring and what I could do and just like continued to pour into me through like mentorship and different professional development programs and organizations like Pavilion. And then just the culture of the company in general. Like we just have such an awesome team. And, I was told when I got here, when we were a much smaller company, when the things that you do and the output that you create, you will see immediate impact. And that was true. And I am someone who I love being able to see the results that I'm helping produce. And it just kind of like built that momentum. I was like, okay, we have a saying around here, experiments never fail. So, all right, let's try this thought leadership thing over here and let's build this strategy for all of the content that we're producing in our digital campaigns. And so it just kind of built on itself. And, when you have the foundation of a great organization that really believes and cares about its people and wants us to be successful and promotes great ideas and creativity and curiosity and all of those things, that's just conducive for great things to happen.
You're right. Culture means everything in an organization.
Mhm.
If you don't have that, it can make your life and your job a lot harder.
Tell me about it. Got stories I can tell you when that's not the case. Exactly. Oh my goodness. But okay, I got a few more questions for you. So, what do you think are the biggest operational challenges that universities face today that people outside the industry or even outside of the university space don't see or don't appreciate?
Operationally, I would say real estate. And the only reason why I say that is because being in an environment, for me, I have Tennessee River, but there are only so many opportunities to expand. So that's creating a situation where have to create another type model. And so for us, it's how can I bring the most people in as well as reduce the number of single occupancy vehicles that are on this campus. Because over time, I've lost space, but I think part of my campaign, knowing that very popular campus, everybody wants to come here. I don't blame them. Have a great academic program, great chancellor, great student body. It just seems that we need to have additional offerings to where everyone doesn't rely on a car. And it's how do I best get people here to arrive on time as well as move people around. And I think it's a walkable campus. There are certain areas I would say are a little challenging. All in all, I feel like I have a responsibility to make sure that I can facilitate movement to and from to ensure that faculty and staff can arrive to work on time and to make sure that students can arrive to class on time, as well as visitors, that come to campus and they want the potential to come and see how things operate here. It's just a matter of having available space, share the space, and everything operationally that you have to do from a parking standpoint. I mean, most users I hear from, they feel like just build more garages. Well, they don't realize, that the cost of building a garage, and it's not like I guess I won't say I have a reserve, but it's not to build a garage because
Right.
I just can't fund it. That's something that we would have to go out and bond as a result of not having reserves on hand. So I think that's the biggest challenge, the real estate piece. I know a lot of institutions have looked at P3 projects, private partnerships, various companies. So something to think about, but just trying to understand, for your users that are here, what incentives could you potentially provide in order to get more buy-in for our
Yeah.
programs that we offer?
Yeah, that's so true. Like that kind of chicken and the egg of it made me think about where you're trying to change behavior while also appreciating that there are certain things that like consumers, students, faculty, whatever, how they want to move about campus, but it's like the education piece, right? Okay, well, these are the options you have. You
Yeah.
don't need a car when you're a freshman.
I mean, I'm in a good place, right? So I
Mhm.
think, because we have 27 dining locations here located on campus, there is not a need to have to go out to find food. I mean, we have a grocery store that is in the vicinity of campus. Um,
Mhm.
so I just feel like we need to spend more time marketing out these different offerings because I always feel like students need to be able to get the experience versus trying to go off site. And they also have the ability to, obtain rides from their friends or from
Mhm.
that perspective.
And you're like a downtown campus too, right? Like, are you in downtown Knoxville, which is like a whole other level of.
Whole another level of traffic to have to contend with.
So, as student expectations evolve and technology continues to advance, what shifts are you preparing for in the next 5 to 10 years for your operation? Like, what things are you looking at to maybe
So it's
add or.
funny that you say that. So we are trying to expand technology. I will say that was one thing that we were kind of behind on. For sure. A lot of it was funding. I will say where we were didn't allow for additional offerings. And I will say, I think as an organization, it was a matter of just having certain positions that could support these initiatives.
Mhm.
So I will say, I don't think we had the right people at the time to assist with those offerings. I say that to say, um, and just to help you, I lost one of my directors. They
Mhm.
retired. I lost 2 of my directors in the same year I started.
Oh,
And
geez.
so that created a situation where I, as the executive director, was in the weeds doing a lot of the setups from a permitting standpoint.
Mm.
And at that time, that was the first year where we implemented a whole lot of changes. Like it was a transformational year. And
Mhm.
so at this point in time, we had a lot of different things that we needed to push out to campus and only so few of us to help with that messaging. So until I was able to get my team on board, it was a matter of, okay, we know we have to do these particular initiatives, but how can we best roll it out to where I'm not expending a lot of energy on the team that I have because they were few and far
Mhm.
between.
Mhm.
And I had several people in interim roles until we could get to a position where I could essentially hire people for expanding the team. And so
Yeah.
on the technology side of the house, we realized, okay, we want our customers to know at any given time when they arrive, they have a dedicated space or available parking space. So we were trying to encourage people to download Ballpark. And I think we have close to 10,000 users, but I know I need to push that offering out more to get potential buy-in from campus. So it's a crowdsourcing app that will
Oh,
essentially tell you about available parking. It will
yeah.
even tell you if you're parked in the wrong location.
Yeah.
But I am kind of working on dynamic signage in the garages to kind of
Mhm.
know level by level what's available, as well as parking guidance systems to try to help with that to eliminate the amount of circling around the
Mm.
garage. We were able to minimize congestion. We'll say in most of our garage facilities, we're sitting around 70 to 85%. Whereas when
Nice.
I first arrived, we were at 99 points.
How
It was
did you.
basically we had to go to a zonal option and a
Mm.
proc tier-based parking to try
Right.
to minimize the amount of competition, and so
Sure.
at the time, we were everybody has an oversell ratio, but we had to get to a point where we had to actually sell out of a particular product and then encourage other means. So we implemented a park and ride, $99 a year, most economical option I could have, and you
Love
could
that.
get this in 10 minutes at least.
That's
10
awesome.
mhm. that was help. We also partner with Knoxville Area Transit for the bus system.
Nice.
So students and faculty staff can ride for free. So it was a lot of little initiatives that we had to do. So I say that to say you can make these plans and say you can do them in 5 to 10 years, but if you don't have a team to execute that plan, it can delay. And so right now, what we're trying to understand is, how can I best spread the price amongst all of my customer base so that I don't have one favoring another too much? We don't want to make it cost prohibitive. We want to be able to have these different amenities to help with the experience piece versus trying to lay the burden on the person that is utilizing it. So it's just trying to understand, okay, as a campus, where are we actually growing? We know there is going to be additional students coming to campus, which we have to have a complement of faculty and staff. So I know it will be additional faculty and staff that comes to campus. So just knowing at a glance, okay, I have these additional user groups. What type of technologies would help their experience from an academic standpoint? And so understanding what that is, going to these various groups and asking them, what would you be interested in seeing from a campus standpoint? Because for the most part, everyone has been familiar with another campus offering. And so just understanding from a user standpoint versus me being the only one making the decisions for campus. I think that's where we need to look into before we get too far down the line from a strategic plan.
Have you done a customer journey mapping exercise before where you go through that like with your students or with the faculty and you're like actually mapping each of those touch points and like the technology and everything that
So
goes with it?
Yeah, I think as part of my mobility steering committee, that is exactly the conversations that we're going to be having. We actually surveyed them to kind of understand, how do they travel around campus? If they had a parking permit, um, would they be interested in any type of micro mobility offerings? Like we've asked those questions. And so I think just kind of expanding that out. I just hired a mobility coordinator, which is my TDM person. Hoping having him on staff will kind of help with those conversations. Because right now, when I mention TDM, campus is like, what is that? Like, it's not a known thing. But once I am able to identify what that program is going to look like, we'll slowly start to roll these initiatives out so that we can try to help the end user know what's coming and how best you can interact with us on campus. Because it was interesting. I learned today I have people on my committee and they're like, well, I know you guys are asking us what we want to see in the future, but I don't think we have an understanding of what you have now. And the light bulb went off and I was like, oh, wow, here it is. You're on campus and you don't know what we have. So that lets me know that's an area that I need to explore to ensure that, the person that works here every day, the student that comes to class every day understands what their options are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Do you have someone that does the marketing for that?
So right now, I do have a person that I lean on for most of that, but I am interested in trying to hire for a position to focus on that
Yeah.
because I feel like because there's so much, from not only the parking standpoint but the transportation standpoint, and then reports up to me. So I think with everything that's happening around me, telling our story is something that we haven't been good at doing. Finding the right person that can help me with that, I think that would be instrumental for us.
Totally. Well, I am a novice when it comes to university parking marketing, but the little that I do know is if you could get a student or somebody that's like graduating, social media is a big part of that. Like,
Now, I will say I do have a social media person, and
you do.
she graduated from here. So I got her on board like immediately after graduation, and we were able to hire her full time. So I'm very thankful.
Love that.
Fact that she understands, put it like this. I was doing orientations. I was able to rely on her to do the orientations. She picked up on everything parking and transit related She probably knows it better than me. I could not have a better sidekick when it comes to telling what we are doing here on campus. I mean,
Okay.
she's been a change maker for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Having a good team is everything.
It is. And I have to attribute them because, I mean, for what it's worth, I can't do it all by myself. I cannot.
Yes. Agreed. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have or that I missed?
I think you covered a lot. For the time that we've spent, I will say I'm fortunate to have had this opportunity to speak with you. Thank you for agreeing to be the one to lead this because I'm all about woman power. So thank you, Brian. I need to thank Brian too.
Okay. Well, then we get to dive into the fun lightning round part. So
Okay, let's do it.
this is the fun parts. Okay. What phrase are you known for at work? Like if someone hears a phrase, they're like, oh, that's Tanara. Do you have one? Like a catchphrase?
Everybody just calls me Dr. T.
If they hear Dr. T, they know who that is.
They know it's me.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Brian always has us in here, and I'm just like, I don't know what
I
my
will say my
catchphrase is.
former job, I was called Iron Britches, but I can't explain why.
That's hilarious. Okay, what's the hardest thing? This is a loaded question. What's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life? Not just parking, but in your life.
This doctoral degree.
Okay, fair. How many years did it take you?
9.
Ooh, girl.
Well, I had 3 chairs. Well, 4. So
Yeah, I can't
that was
imagine.
the part. Yeah, I wrote my paper for at least 4 of the 9 years.
How long? How many pages was it?
It was 200. And guess what? I'll be honest. I was asked to rewrite those 200 pages. And I think, now you got me, maybe 160 something, but that included references. But I will say I probably did all of that in less than 6 months. That whole rewrite was less than 6 months.
Dang.
A lot of brain power was being utilized towards that degree, I'm telling
I was
you.
going to say, this is long before ChatGPT, so you know.
No, that long.
Up there, yeah.
That was this brain.
Right. Oh my goodness. What's the hardest thing about your parking job?
You know, I don't look at anything as necessarily being hard. I will say most challenging, I guess, understanding the why.
You understanding the why or helping your team understand the why?
Both.
Yeah.
I think it comes in intervals. It's both. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's so important. Like, if you don't know your why are you doing it? You know? Yep. That's good. If you could wave your magic wand and fix one thing in parking, what would it be?
Only one thing.
The most important thing. Yeah, I know. I'm sure there are a lot of things.
Space. If I had unlimited space, I mean, even then, I'm pretty sure, I mean, people will find a way, to still complain. But if I had unlimited space, then I feel like that would minimize the complaint.
When you're not parking cars, what do you do for fun?
I'm so boring, Heidi.
You not believe that for 1 second?
I'm gonna tell you what I do for fun. I'm a caregiver for my mom because when I go home, she's there waiting on me. She's like my best friend. So
I love that.
number 1 cheerleader. When I have a tough day, she'll be like, what happened? Like she can see the expression on my face. And so it makes me feel a lot better because sometimes it just takes talking it out.
Yes. I'm a verbal processor, so I understand.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate that I still have my mom. She's 79 years old. She's still here with me.
That's so good. Well, I'm sure she's so appreciative of you for doing that.
I'm an only child, so I'm pretty sure.
I always joke that eventually my mom, she's got a mobile home. I was like, all right, we got to move at some point and get more land, and then you can just live behind me.
Yes.
Yep. All right. What are you most proud of?
Most proud of my kids. I have to group them as one because I'm proud of my boys.
You have 2, right?
I have 2. 17, and the one that's 10 will be 11 on Friday.
You can celebrate.
Big party.
So good. All right. Well, what outside of kiddos, is there anything else you would say you're most proud of, like professionally, maybe?
I would say just, landing this role because like you said, it's highly visible. So not in a million years if you would have told me 10 years ago that I would have been at the University of Tennessee. It's funny because I worked at Health Science Center in Memphis. And so I thought it was going to be the closest I got to UT. So I just never imagined being here at the flagship institution. So
should I say go Vols? Because you're Tennessee born and raised, right? So it's like in your blood.
From Memphis originally.
Well, thank you so much, Tanara. for being on here today. This was fun. It didn't even feel like we were being recorded. It was just like having a conversation. So
I
appreciate
know. It was good to catch up too.
Yes.
And thank you for answering my question.
Yeah. Thanks for asking me that. I was not expecting that at all.
I'd change it up a little bit.
That's right. Keep people on their toes.
That's a wrap on this episode of Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered, presented by Parker Technology. Please leave us a review if you liked what you heard. Make sure you tune in next month as we continue to uncover tips, tricks, and best practices to manage what we all know is harder than it looks: parking a car. Bye for now.